Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another album review. Musician reviews great albums of the 70s and 80s, and we are doing the album Rumours by Fleetwood Mac. The last time we did the song Secondhand News, which is the first album on the song on the album. Now we're going to move on to the next two songs, and the next one is going to be Dreams. The first song that we listened to, it kicked the album off in a high note. It was bouncy, it was fun, it was youthful, kind of a light, youthful, bubbly, innocent sort of minimalist song. And it was a great way to come in and start the album and draw you into the rest of the album. Once you heard that song, you were like, man, I got to hear the rest of this. This is great. And you know what? It is great. And it just gets better and better and better. This was the 11th album by the band Fleetwood Mac. And with the addition of Stevie Nicks and her boyfriend, the incomparable Lindsey Buckingham, Nicks and Buckingham had their own group, and they were doing their thing. They had been recorded a record in Los Angeles, and apparently at the time, Big Fleetwood came in and said, "Hey, would you guys want to be a part of our band, or would you, Lindsey Buckingham, want to be a part of Fleetwood Mac?" And I guess Lindsey said, "Yeah, I'd love to do it, but you'll have to accept my girlfriend too, who was Stevie Nicks." So good thing they did, because her voice and his playing and his voice just turned the band into something incredibly special. And so they came in and wrote a lot of the songs, did a lot of the music for Fleetwood Mac. Now, like I said, in this show, we review whole albums. We don't just talk about songs, we talk about albums, because the albums are the thing. In those days, people made albums of songs, and they were all meant to work together. And so you would have to pick the first song, the next one, the last one, in the order you felt was the best order for the songs. It was creating a work of art. And so in our generation, we would go buy a record album, we'd open it up, look at all the pictures, put the record on, put the needle on, start it, look at the pictures, read the lyrics as we went along, look at all the credits and everything else, and it was an experience. And you listened to the whole album. You played the whole thing. It wasn't just one song and then one other song. So there was a unifying connection between music in those days. It was more than just the sum of its parts. Okay, so we love albums, and I'm playing the greatest albums, the albums that I found the best in that time. I was a teenager in the 70s and my 20s in the 80s, so this was my time. And those of you who lived in my generation, you understand how special music was in those days to us. And I know all these songs many of them will bring back memories, send you back like that to memories you had. And I'm going to try to communicate some of those memories to you out there that maybe weren't there. And you can experience what I experienced when you heard some of these songs. And those of you who did live back then, you don't need my help. You, I'm sure, have the memories of your own. I'll give you mine. But I'm also going to analyze the songs as well as the albums as a whole. Now, we started out with the real high, fun song of Secondhand News. The next song is Dreams. And Dreams is a different song altogether. It's sung by Stevie Nicks, soloing pretty much. And it's a much slower paced song, but it kind of slows it down. Coming in, you come off in a high, and you go down to a lower sort of a volume and pace, and then it begins to pick up again. So it takes you in, drops you down, and it's a nice interlude, but you get to find out what Stevie Nicks sounds like and her abilities to sing, and it's a great song besides. So let's start with Dreams.
Well, who am I to keep you down?
Okay, I'm going to cut in here. What you're hearing is it starts off with the bass guitar and the drums and a very light guitar. And Lindsey's playing this very harmonic guitar part. He's not strumming along. He's hitting these harmonics, which is giving us the background melody, okay? And so you've got the bass and the drums carrying this rhythm. Kind of like the last song, kind of like Secondhand News, except this has a little less of a immediacy to it. And then you have Stevie's voice being layered onto itself for some of the choruses and some of the background vocals. But you're introduced to Stevie Nicks' incredible voice. She has a very unique voice, a little gravelly, but it's full of emotion. And I can tell you, when she came into the music scene, she took it by storm. And she got so much credit for being the band because her voice was so good and she was so unique that some of the other musicians like Fleetwood Mac and Lindsey Buckingham and Christy McVie and her husband McVie, the bass, they kind of went into the background of popularity. But I can guarantee you, folks, every one of these musicians were top shelf. And if any of them had been taken out, it would have diminished the whole group. You needed all of them. And they all contributed to the brilliance of the songwriting, the performance, the production, all of them. Anyway, let's continue on with the song.
And what you have, and what you love. Oh, thunder only happens when it's raining. Players only love you when they're playing. Say women, they will come and they will go. When the rain washes you clean, you know.
Here's where Lindsey's guitar, his harmonics come in. The subtlety.
Now here I go again. I see
Great drum part by Mick Fleetwood. Didn't overplay it. He served the song. He was really good at doing that.
myself.
This is a perfect example.
It's only me who wants to wrap around your dreams. And have you any dreams you like yourself? Dreams of loneliness like a heartbeat drives you back. In the stillness of remembering what you had and what you love. What you had, oh, what you love. Thunder only happens when it's raining. Players only love you when they're playing. Women, they will come and they will go. When the rain washes you clean, you'll know. Oh, thunder only happens when it's raining. Players only love you when they're playing. Say women, they will come and they will go. When the rain washes you clean, you'll know. You'll know.
Stop it right there for a second. I want to comment on Mick Fleetwood's drumming. And as a drummer, I can tell you, he's not a fast player. He's not powerful, but he's incredibly tasteful, and he knows exactly when to do a fill and what kind of fill to do. It's all very, very serving the song. And he has some very unique drum parts, the way he plays certain drums. He plays the drum set as an instrument, not just each drum as an instrument, but the whole kit. And he can do a lot with just a tom and a stick and a bass drum and a hi-hat. And you can hear here this little light tapping on the hi-hat, and then this occasional da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da at just the right time. And so his drumming takes this music a long way. Now, as far as Stevie Nicks here and the background vocals, I want to give Christy McVie her due because she's helping with the background vocals here to kind of fill those out. But once again, Stevie Nicks' voice is being showcased in this song, and she has a remarkable voice, incredible voice, very unique, that helped make this this band as successful that it was. Let's finish the song.
You will know. You'll know.
Wow, very good. And that was Dreams. A nice way to introduce Stevie Nicks into the album as a solo, sort of a solo way. She was the only one really singing here, except for Christy McVie's voice was kind of layered in some of the background vocals. But it worked well with, as I said, with Lindsey Buckingham's harmonic guitar playing. And it didn't take over the song. It never dominated. It was just back there carrying the melody, adding to the melody, giving it a sort of dreamy flavor to it. And it's called Dreams, so that's a great way to play it. So the musicianship here was really top shelf. Okay, so we've had the fun, bouncy song, and then we had this kind of mellow song, kind of dreamy song that came in next. Now we're going to do Never Go Back Again, which is a whole different style. And you'll notice one thing about 70s bands, the good ones, they didn't repeat themselves over and over again. They didn't get stuck in a rut. Most of the time, they would cover such a wide variety of styles, and they would go from such different directions and large leaps from this style to this style to this style. But they made it work within their sound, and they could take different styles of music and make it theirs. And they weren't afraid to experiment. They weren't afraid to try new things. They weren't afraid to bring in other influences. They weren't trying to stick to a successful formula like what started to happen later on in the 80s and 90s, etc. They were able to expand out and be creative. And Fleetwood Mac is a perfect example of that. Okay, the next song on the album, the third one on the first side of the record, is called Never Going Back Again. This is a different kind altogether. So let's listen to Never Going Back Again. And the commercial ends.
She broke down and let me in. Made me see where I've been.
Okay, guys, I got to cut in here because this is really cool. This is just an acoustic guitar and harmonies and singing. That's it. There's no bass. There's no drums. They just dropped everything and said, let's do this after Dreams. Now, it's kind of a risk because the next song, you either want it to be a real mellow tune like Dreams or you want it to be upbeat and fast. But they did something interesting. They did another minimal song like the first one, but even more minimal. But it's mellow. At the same time, it's bouncy. It's both. They combined the two styles into one song, and yet they just took out all the instruments except for the acoustic guitar. And you got Lindsey Buckingham singing, and you got the Christy McVie and Stevie Nicks doing some in the background. And you notice right there, you heard that so it comes up for an accent and then fades away. It's a really cool production method they did there to kind of end that phrase, and it gave some melody and fullness to the song, so it isn't just acoustic guitar. Really good production, really good songwriting. Here we go with some more.
To win,
Wow, okay. That was a fun song. Now, it was a minimal song, kind of light, but happy. It wasn't dreamy like the first, like the second one, but it was bubbly and happy like the first one. But it was just the guitar, and it was very lighthearted, and it's just kind of a happy. I think of like a summer day, a summer walk in the woods, or just tooling down in the car, and just kind of a light feeling song that it just worked so well. And you can see they were willing to try these different things, and that other bands really may have not have chosen to do this. But you got the feeling that Fleetwood Mac really, they could play a large variety of music. And believe me, their catalog is so varied. You can never say they were in a rut. This song was a great third addition to the lineup on the first side. So now you're thinking, okay, I've heard a really cool, bouncy song at the beginning, a lot of light guitar and drums, maybe some heavy bass carrying the melody. Then I heard this sort of really kind of quiet, dreamy, mellow song. And the next one is kind of mellow too, but bouncy. So does Fleetwood Mac have anything more in their arsenal but acoustic guitar and some light humming and some interesting harmonics and vocals? Well, the answer is yes. They have it in spades. And the listener is going to find out very soon what they can do. Because this album is terrific. It's one of the greatest albums, rock albums made, and no one's ever been able to top it as far as I'm concerned. It's right there at the top 5 albums of the 1970s, I would say easily. So we're going to move on to the next 2 songs in the next video. I hope you're enjoying this reaction. Fleetwood Mac is just a band that I can go to almost any time, and I like it. I never say I don't want to hear any Fleetwood Mac. I can always hear Fleetwood Mac. There's just something in each song that just draws you and your interest, and you can find a mood for. And as a drummer, even though there isn't a lot of drumming in their songs, Mick Fleetwood's drum parts, he has an ability to create really interesting drum parts, but without getting in the way of everybody, really supporting the song. And as a drummer, I find that too many drummers today really just want to go fast and hard. Mick Fleetwood shows how you can be a musical drummer and still be an incredibly good drummer. And that's Mick Fleetwood. And so kudos to Mick Fleetwood for what he does. Well, that's all I have for this review. I hope you've enjoyed. I hope you're enjoying this series. Hope you're having a great day. And I hope I made your day better. And come back for the rest of the Rumours album. We're going to cover some other albums, of course, moving on here. And I think you're going to like what I'm doing. So the young and old, join me for an exploration into the magic of music, the magic carpet ride I'm taking you on through the albums of the 70s and 80s, the best ones, and I think you'll enjoy it. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you again soon.